We knew that there was going to be some levity to it,
Right.
and that there would be laughs, absolutely. But the one thing that I liked more than that was that it would probably work in the way that I think a lot of these Marvel films work, which is there are laughs, but that there's a lot more going on.
So it's the early 2000s, and Marvel is beginning to build its own movie universe. They have an ambitious slate of films planned: Iron Man, Captain America, and in the mix is Ant-Man, a relatively lesser known hero. So Marvel goes, who can we get to direct this movie? So then they go, let's get Edgar Wright, the director behind Shaun of the Dead, to bring Ant-Man to life. So at the 2006 San Diego Comic-Con, Edgar Wright himself gets on stage with Marvel. Now at this point, fans are surprised and stoked. Edgar Wright, grinning from ear to ear, then teases his vision for the film. A prologue where you see Henry Pym as Ant-Man in action in the 60s. And then the contemporary flash forward is Scott Lang's story and how he comes to acquire the suit. In other words, he planned to have the original Ant-Man, Hank Pym, in a retro opening sequence, then jump to the modern day story of Scott Lang, the Ant-Man we'd follow for the rest of the movie. This was announced way back in 2006, before even the first Iron Man movie came out. And this announcement has everyone buzzing. Now after the big announcement, things go a bit quiet on the Ant-Man front for a while. Keep in mind that Marvel was busy launching the Avengers lineup one by one. Meanwhile, Edgar didn't just sit down and twiddle his thumbs. He had other films to make. He directed Hot Fuzz 2007, and later Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and Ant-Man development stretched on in the background for years. Now at this point, Marvel knew that they had something good with Edgar Wright, so they decided not to rush him. In fact, Marvel even let Edgar delay Ant-Man at one point so he could finish The World's End in 2013. The thing is, Edgar had promised that film to a producer friend who fell ill, and Marvel, to their credit, allowed him to honor that before fully diving into Ant-Man. So, this move shows that at least until 2013, Marvel and Edgar Wright had a pretty cooperative relationship. During those years, Edgar and Joe Cornish kept refining the Ant-Man script through multiple drafts. By 2008, they finished the first draft and were working on a second. By 2011, Joe Cornish said they had completed a second draft and even a third draft by that summer. Now according to Edgar, Ant-Man was supposed to be a standalone movie, one you could enjoy without knowing all the other Marvel films. I wanted to put the crazy premise of it into a real world, which is why I think Iron Man really works, because it's a relatively simple universe. It's relatable. Now the biggest hype boost came in around mid-2012. Edgar Wright secretly shot a short test reel of Ant-Man in action, and at Comic-Con 2012, they surprised the audience with footage of Ant-Man shrinking, running down a hallway, flipping an assailant, all in Edgar Wright's slick, kinetic style. The crowd went nuts. The footage was well received, and it showed that Ant-Man could look cool and awesome in Edgar Wright's vision. Now thanks to all the buzz surrounding the movie, Marvel set a release date for it, originally November 2015, but later moved to July 17, 2015. Ant-Man was supposed to be the first film of Marvel's Phase 3, right after Avengers Age of Ultron. So from the outside looking in, everything seemed on track. But behind the scenes, the question of creative control was quietly simmering. Now by 2013, Marvel was going, we know that you want to make this a standalone film, but the Marvel universe is growing. How are you going to account for that? Now in August of 2013, Edgar goes, I do want to fit my script into the larger Marvel universe, but at the same time, I still want this to operate on its own terms, and I still want this to be a standalone film.
And it's funny, I met Stan Lee in the States, and he said to me that he always... that Ant-Man was the one character that he'd come up with that he never felt like they quite got it right.
So, Edgar was battling trying to fit this into the larger cinematic universe while trying to make this a standalone movie. But at the same time, he was very confident he could make this happen. So by October of 2013, he was back in Los Angeles finishing the touches on the script. He even tweeted, "Now I'm back in LA. It's high time to finish a little something I've been working on." Then, finally, the pieces begin to fall into place. In December of 2013, Marvel announces Paul Rudd will star as Scott Lang, the new Ant-Man. And it was fitting, because Paul Rudd, known for his charm and comedy chops, felt like the perfect fit for Edgar's tone. Paul Rudd and Edgar Wright are actually friends in real life, so that made Paul Rudd even easier to work with. Then in January of 2014, Marvel drops another surprise. Michael Douglas is cast as Hank Pym. Yes, the Michael Douglas, as the original Ant-Man in the story's past. So suddenly, Ant-Man has some serious star power and a generational aspect. Also, Evangeline Lilly from Lost is also rumored and later confirmed to be playing Hope, Hank Pym's daughter, and other actors like Patrick Wilson, Corey Stoll, and Michael Pena are on board. Additionally, Edgar's team is also beginning to form. Bill Pope, the cinematographer behind The Matrix and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, is chosen as director of photography, and Edgar's go-to composer Stephen Price is also signed on. So at this point, it's all systems go for May 2014 shooting beginning in Atlanta. After 8 years of development, Edgar Wright is finally about to direct Ant-Man, but here's where things take a turn. So it's early 2014, just weeks before filming, and that's when Marvel goes, "Edgar, can I see that script one more time?" And Edgar goes, "Sure." Then Marvel says, "I don't like that. I don't like this. Oh, can we change this right here?" Right? Marvel was not entirely happy with parts of the script, and that's when they go, "Do you mind if we bring in some in-house writers to change this script? Because we don't like it." Now Edgar, who had written all of his previous films and very much got his creative vision, was very uneasy about this. I mean, this is the guy who's used to calling the shots on his projects, so you can bet he was not too thrilled about this. But because he wanted to make the movie, he said, "Okay, we can make some changes." But then Marvel goes, "But don't worry, we're not gonna change much." Gotcha!
Gotcha, bitch!
Marvel, without Edgar Wright's involvement, has the whole script rewritten by other writers. And that's because they didn't want this to be a standalone film, and they wanted this to fit into the growing Marvel universe. Right? Edgar was not involved in this draft. He didn't even get to give input. In fact, the studio paused pre-production in late May of 2014 to get these rewrites done, right before filming would start. Imagine being Edgar. You've spent 8 years working on this movie, and suddenly you get handed a script that's been marvelized by someone else. That's exactly what happened. Edgar receives the new script around May 19 of 2014, he reads it, and that's when he loses his cool. So, once Edgar sees that the script is no longer his own, so he goes, "Yeah, I think I'm over this."
Over.
So, he quits on the spot, feeling like Marvel has done him wrong. So around May 23 of 2014, Marvel and Edgar Wright issue a public statement, essentially saying that Marvel is moving on without Edgar and there was no bad blood involved. So at this point Marvel was scrambling, but they moved quickly to keep Ant-Man on track. Within a couple of weeks, they hired Peyton Reed as a new director and brought on writer Adam McKay, known for Anchorman and also a friend of Paul Rudd, to rewrite the script. Now production fell back by a couple of weeks, but the cast of the movie decided to stay, including Evangeline Lilly. She said, "I was holding out on signing my contract until I got to see the script. That was the crux of the divide. I realized Edgar had written a script that I wanted to be in, but he hadn't written a script that would necessarily seamlessly fit into the Marvel universe, and the new script did fit." So, by mid-2014, Edgar Wright was out, and Marvel moved on with Ant-Man under new leadership. So Marvel's Ant-Man came out around July of 2015 under Peyton Reed's direction. And the thing is, it was still a solid hit. The budget for the entire movie was around $130 million, but it made about $518 million worldwide. But still, you'd hear fans saying, "Yeah, Ant-Man was great, but imagine if we got Edgar Wright's Ant-Man." So, almost immediately after leaving Ant-Man, Edgar began working on another movie, and this one was called Baby Driver. The thing is, when Edgar was doing interviews, people came up to him and said, "So, have you seen the new Ant-Man movie or the trailer?" To which Edgar says, "I haven't seen it, and I haven't even seen the trailer." It would kind of be like asking me, "Do you want to watch your ex-girlfriend having sex?" Like, no, I'm good. Looking back, Edgar only has one regret about walking away. The only thing I regret is the time wasted. My time and Joe Cornish's time wasted. That's all I regret. So as for Marvel, they went on with Ant-Man and the Wasp and even a third Ant-Man film. But to this day, fans still wonder about Edgar Wright's Ant-Man and what it could have been. We might never know, but one thing's for sure, the story behind it is just as entertaining as any superhero movie. Anyway, that's it for the video. Did you like the first Ant-Man movie? Or do you think they could have done better? Let me know down below. See you in the next video.